I don't know if I'm able to say it because I don't know if he's got it like trademarked or anything. But I'm gonna dance around it. But
colors matter a lot, right?
I was hoping you're gonna bring up AI because I'm probably gonna get flack for this. But
we like Joseph Hughes. We'll call it 5 Mile Famous.
I do like Joseph Hughes. All right.
You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Aline, the co-author of the books Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and The Best Known Roofer. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the leading digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I sit down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Hit the buttons, leave us comments, leave us a review. We appreciate it every time you do it. Today, I have my friend Paul West from Sky High Cinema. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Sky High Cinema. Jim, what do you have some cinematographer? What are you doing here? What, isn't this a roofing podcast? Paul, let's talk, man. Introduce yourself. Tell for people who haven't gotten to meet you or seen you around. How'd you get into roofing and what do you do?
So it's kind of a funny story. You know, if you would have asked me, well, what's it going on now, 7 years ago, if I could ever see myself in the roofing industry, I would have kind of laughed in your face. But it's been quite a journey. The Sky High name came about because I primarily did drone videography for TV and film before transitioning into the roofing space. So I started working with a roofing company back in 2018, I think. So 6 years, I guess. But worked for them for about 4 years, kind of learned the roofing game, and then also honing in on my craft of videography and marketing, and got paired up with John the Roof Pro, John Cenac, and him and I have been kind of co-partners for a while now, doing traveling around the country producing content for other roofing companies and his platform as well. So yeah, it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, and I mean, so for those of you've seen Paul's work if you follow John. So that's a good way to put it. If you're not familiar with Paul, he's the guy behind the camera for John and for a lot of roofing companies. He's worked with some of our clients and things and does a great job. And he also has roofing experience because he's actually sold a roof or two. So he's climbed a ladder. He's been, he's in the industry. So I love your perspective, what in our conversations, getting your perspective, because you actually know the industry well. You're not just from the videography side, and always love having these conversations, and always love what you do for people, and when you're doing your services, and I want to start off by kind of giving people, video is what you can control. I think this is a very controllable thing in your business. I got asked this morning on the Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance marketing call that I host. I got asked what to do next. What should I be focused on? And my answer right now is video. Because you can control that. You can't control the Google search algorithm. You can't control, you can do your best to adapt to it. You can do your best to run Google ads and Google local services ads and Facebook ads. And you could do your best to, to get out, into the neighborhoods and knocking doors. And you're always doing your best around all these aspects. But I think the thing that is complementing everything that you're doing with only one step below your reviews on Google is, I think, your video content. And so I wanted to have this conversation with you for the audience. And so, I wanted to get your thoughts on creating content and, what are, some of the kind of essentials that you feel are around creating video content for a roofing business.
I would say that there's so much more than just creating content. You should be you should be intentional when you're creating content.
Yes.
I mean, anybody can pick up a phone and shoot a video and post it, but without context or without kind of some forethought of like what you want to do with that content, it will go unnoticed. And so, when you're creating content in your roofing business, you're not just creating content to create content, you're creating content for branding. And I think a lot of people kind of mix. What am I trying to say? Branding is critical when it comes to any business online. I used to harp to my old roofing boss. He got it. He knew he needed a social media manager and a videographer. He just didn't understand why. And I used to harp, if you may have a good reputation in person, you may be, people may know you around town, but if you're not online, if you're not visible online, it's almost like you don't exist. And so you're almost wanting to create content to mirror what you are already doing in real life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you're meeting with homeowners. You have a reputation. The way that you service your customers, like all of that should be put on video. The way that you are everything that you are doing, everything that you harp about in person, you should translate into a video. And what that does over time, it's not an overnight thing. So it's like I laugh at these marketers who are online right now who are saying like, oh, like we can get you 30 leads tomorrow. And it's like, no, it really doesn't work like that. It may work in the short term, but in the long term, it doesn't work. And the one power that video will do is it's forever. When don't compare your day 1,000 or day one to somebody's day 1,000. Some other roofing company may have hundreds of videos and you may be a little bit intimidated by that, but you have to remember that they started with that first video. And so, I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but don't be afraid.
You can't not do T-ball in kindergarten because they're Major League Baseball players.
Correct.
Out there, right? Like you have to go through the journey of it. You have to, you have to start. And I like what you said about, the content around your day and things like that. One of the things that I always like to think about in terms of marketing is good marketing. The goal of good marketing is to make your salespeople order takers. Right. So if you can, this is my thought on this, you could kind of give me your thoughts, but it made me think of like what I think of is if you take all of the objections that you get in the sales process and you front load that in your marketing, these people are looking on your website, they're looking on your social media, they're seeing the answers to a lot of the questions that by the time if you have the goal of by the time you get to the kitchen table, there's less objections to overcome, right? There's less of less resistance to the sale because they've already done their homework. And I think that's what you said, like with being intentional about it, right? Like, so that's my thought.
No, I really like that. And I mean, there's a whole thing. If you follow anybody consistently online, and you watch somebody on YouTube every day or every other day, like you create what's called a parasocial relationship. So you feel like you know them on a personal level. You ever met them in person, they would have no idea who you are because they don't know who you are, but you know who they are based on you have this familiarity aspect to it.
Yeah.
And so when you're creating content as a roofing company or a salesperson or an owner, or just you're putting out everybody's faces online, when you do get to the kitchen table, they feel like they already know you. They trust you because they've seen you. It wasn't just you knocked on the door, they trusted you, you signed a deal. It was you knocked on the door, when you left, they researched you online, they saw your videos, they saw you talking about this objection or that objection, or you're on a roof explaining, why this roof needs to be replaced, or hey, here's a common thing that happens on roofs. Here's why we look at this way. So it's almost like you're building rapport with them without you actually having to do it in person. Um, and it's kind of neat to see. The more that you put
Yeah.
out, the more the community feels like they know you.
Yeah. And what do you think of, like, what I think of it there is you can also insert that into the conversation. I know there was a
Yeah.
company that I had, a owner that I had on the podcast a while ago, like, who they would really focus on customer testimonial videos. They would post them in their social media. And then when they went to do an inspection, like before they got on the roof, they told the homeowner, hey, can you go to our Facebook page while I am up here? I'd love for you to take a look at like the work that we do and what other people are saying about us. And I can only imagine, right? Like that, like the impact that would have, right? By
Oh,
the
that's
time you
so
get down
impactful.
off of the ladder, they have, or you could get even more, potentially even more specific. And I'm just kind of, going on it, like going down a rabbit hole here, but like, what are the most common problems that you see in your area, right? So if you're in a hail damage area, or if you're in a full retail market and it's just age and type of shingle, and whatever you're dealing with there, like, what if you had content that went along with those most common problems? And again, before you climb that ladder, you said, hey, while I'm up here, I'd like you to watch this that kind of talks about what I might find up here. Like, how, the level, that trust bucket gets full pretty quick. And I also think, we're always hearing about the differentiation. Like, how do you differentiate yourselves? Boy, your video content is a clear differentiator. And it's an opportunity in a way that there's a lot of resistance to doing it from people. Right? So they're like, others won't
Yeah.
start it,
Yeah.
And so when others won't do it and you will, that is that differentiator in the marketplace for your company. They'll go, they'll order their shingles from Beacon or ABC too. They'll use sometimes the same crews that you use, but they won't go as far as putting themselves out there on camera. I don't know.
Which is always kind of funny to me, because it's, if you're in a sales job or you're in a job where you're talking to people, it's, one thing I used to tell John a lot when we were first starting is like, this isn't a camera. This is your audience. You're talking to that homeowner through this lens. You have to envision yourself having this conversation. Ignore the camera. Talk to your audience who is behind the camera, and that really kind of helped him change his mindset. I mean, don't get me wrong. John was a fantastic on camera in the beginning, period. Yeah. But there was a lot of coaching that we did. We kind of had to find our rhythm, we were creating content for that roofing company. So, it does take time, but, you brought up a point that I want to kind of harp on. It's, when you're creating content, you need to find your style. Don't, the one thing that I think people, when they are starting to create content and then they do it a certain way and they don't really feel, it doesn't really feel organic to them. It kind of feels forced. It's because they're trying to do something it's not in their personality to do it that way. So I would say, when you are first starting, find the style that works best for you, be yourself, because it makes a huge difference of, if you're creating a video and you are yourself on camera, when you go in person and you're that same person, it again creates that familiarity aspect to it, and that it can turn a cold lead into a warm lead, because they feel like they know you.
They feel like they know you. I want to go to the audience now, and so, speaking to your audience in your content, what are some things that a contractor can think about who they want to speak to? Like, how do they say, okay, this is my, in marketing, we call it an avatar, right? A customer avatar, a buyer persona, things like that. Like, so, do you just say, okay, that I'm going to talk to any homeowner, or are you trying to get more specific?
I guess it depends. I do want to backtrack a little bit and say, you brought up
Okay.
customer testimonials. Customer
Yeah.
testimonials are fantastic. I mean, anytime I could get a customer testimonial, it would have so much traction for so much longer than any other thing that we ever put out. Because it's one thing for you to tell the homeowner, your audience or your homeowner, that you're the expert and that you're great, but it's another thing for a real person who's experienced your company to tell those people that you're great. I mean, it's leaps and bounds for anything you'll ever create. So I would say customer testimonials are massive. But as far as the audience goes, you want to build your customer profile. And if you are running a business, you should kind of already know who your target demographic is. If you typically cater to, first time home buyers, or, you're the town that you're in, like the city that we worked in was a college town, and we worked in the metro area as well. So, went from college town, so middle age, to kind of 50s ish. And then you had your outskirts, which were country. So it was like, real kind of like good old, farm boy type, who like to go hunting and fishing on the weekends. But then the town we were in was very liberal. So it was like we had a bunch of different customer profiles that we would target. But we found, at least in our market, that it was better to make generalized videos so it could appeal to anybody. Because if you were a homeowner, I mean, it was obviously we were appealing to homeowners, but so
Yeah.
if you were a homeowner, like, we often created content to highlight various things on the roof that you may not necessarily see from the ground, and or common features that fail on your roof. And so we were constantly creating the same video, but just on different roofs, doing it a different way, shooting it from a different angle, explaining it this way. So it was a lot of the same, but with a different background, if that makes sense.
That's something that I think is that I definitely want to go down that track for sure. You had mentioned like customer testimonials having high impact. I started thinking about, like, what if we could bucket out some types of videos, right? And you kind of talked about the educational videos you were just talking about. Like, what kind of buckets do you look at for a contractor, for a roofing sales rep? Like customer testimonials, educational, what are some buckets that they can fill about this content? And then I want to go into down into like that same video and read, talking about the same thing over and over again a little bit.
One of the first things that you can do is like, what are things that you consistently get questions about? If you're
Yeah.
constantly getting to a part in your roofing process or your customer journey, and you're constantly getting the same either objections or same questions, make a video about that. Make a video explaining in clear-cut form of, like, at this point in the process, this is what's going to be happening. Like, I've started helping roofing companies shoot the process. So it's like, if you're sending out, say for example, you're using a CRM that automatically sends an email to somebody about, like, hey, your job is now moved into supplementing. Most homeowners, I would say of all homeowners, if they've never done a roof before or done any sort of insurance work, they're not going to understand what supplementing is. So, making a video about the supplementing process, or like, you may not ever see the supplementer in that office. So it's like, put the supplementer on camera and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm the supplementer, I'm doing this for you. This is what this means. This is part of the job, the yada, yada, yada. You send that out to somebody as opposed to them reading an email, because let's be honest, how many of us actually read every single email that we get? I would say probably not a lot. So, but they'll watch a video because they'll watch that video if you send them a video. And again, that's another way for you to stand out in the process of you being a roofer and having a roofing company in that town. the other things that you can do are like, um, we were creating future content. So every season we would at the start of a season or the end of another season, we would start shooting content regarding that season. So like the end of summer, we would start shooting fall content,
Mm.
or in fall we would start shooting winter content, talking about, you know, I now live in an area that has all four seasons. When I was living in the South, we had summer and hotter summer. So
Yeah.
it was you didn't really have a cold. But now where I'm at, we shoot content around the time. And so for fall, you're going to have leaves starting to fall. You're going to have um, branches starting to fall in the valley. And if you don't clean that out, the leaves are going to start sticking. And then when it gets winter, you're going to have rain and snow, and then that's going to build up in the valley, and it can cause potential issues. And so we would talk about that. It always came back to talking about something. If you notice this on your roof or you experience this, getting them to call us, to get ahead of X, Y, and Z, or
Mm.
so we can help you figure out what's going, that type of stuff. But yeah, we would talk about common failures on a roof. Um, we would highlight different features of a roof. So we'd be like, do you know what this is? Do you know why this is important? Um, we would do a lot of stuff from the ground. We would shoot around people's houses. We would talk about, clogged gutters and why this can cause issues, if not handled properly. I mean, I think I wrote in one of my notes, I was like, you get on a roof and you see a potential roof sale. I get on a roof and I see 10 plus potential videos.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that answers your.
It does. And one of the things I love that, like, and like, that, that's it. I love the time-based, time-based video idea. Like of saying, okay, what's coming up? Like because a lot of times we're talking about, hey, a recent storm came through or this happened or that happened. And it's reactionary to the past.
Yep.
I love that, adding the aspect of the future-based content where you're shooting content about what the upcoming season is bringing to the, what challenges that your roofing system faces in terms of that, right? Like how do we, and what to do to prepare and how to do all that. That's awesome. Now I want to go down the path of, man, but every year you're going to shoot the same video.
That's
Every year
okay.
every month we get, every time you get on a roof, it's the same problem. I just shot a video about it 2 days ago. I just shot a video about it a month ago. A lot of people know Gary Vaynerchuk now, and I saw a clip of him one time, and someone was saying, Gary, why do you say the same thing over and over again? And he said, because it's the right answer.
I like
And
that.
I was like, that is so, like, it's the right answer. But not everyone saw the first video.
Yep.
Right. So if you shoot it again, or if it's a slightly different, house, a slightly different angle, the way that you said it maybe changes slightly, but it's the right information. It's just the right information. It's correct information that you are telling people,
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to just do, to go down, that path. And man, you're going to get a library full of content over time that, maybe some of it it falls into the same line of this issue or that objection or, things like that. That's awesome. You have more.
Yeah. Well, and you have to think about it too, social media. When you post a video, 100% of your audience will never see 100% of your videos. And so, when you post a video, say a pipe boot is failing, when you post that video, 10%. So, if you have 100 people, you may only have 10 people that see it. You post it again on Wednesday, or you post it again on Friday, or you post it again the next Monday, a different 10 people are going to see it. And so, that repeat content is okay, because it's not like every time you post a video, the same person seeing the same video. It doesn't work like that on social media, and
Yep.
it never will work like that. So don't let
Yeah.
that dissuade you from creating a video that, hey, I created this last week, but it's like you're on a different roof now. Maybe it's a different salesperson. It's a different issue. Yeah, don't be afraid to repeat content. I mean, John and I shot like 700, 800 videos while we worked together and at that roofing company. And a lot
Yeah.
of them, if I had to sort all of them, it would be, we may have 100 of the same videos, but it's all on different roofs.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great for people to understand, right? I think that, there's a challenge in man, what do I create? Like, what do I, how do I come up with something? And I like to tell people that as you do this, like over time, how you said, when you go up on a roof, a lot of people see a sale, you see 10 videos. As you do this, the more that you do video, the more that you shoot videos, the more that you see topics for videos everywhere. Do you feel like that? Like, that's how I feel, man. Like it, and I started helping people shoot video back in like 2009, 10 area. And it was a realtor friend of mine that I was working with. I helped him build a video blog for the neighborhood that he farmed in his real estate business. And I gave him like, these are 10 videos to start with, 10 topics. Go shoot these videos. And then by the time he got done with those 10, he went, oh, now I get, like, it clicked a little bit. Like, oh, now we'll just continue to go down these paths and answer these questions and talk about this and talk about that. And then you get to a point where it's just, everything looks like a video to you,
Oh, absolutely.
which is awesome. How have you guys, I don't know how much you get into the metrics of the social media, for John and for all the, for what you guys are doing. Have you seen changes from the interest-based algorithms from the audience-based algorithms? Have you seen some changes in the way that the content is being consumed? Or is it not something that you're in the weeds on?
I used to follow it every single day. Now I kind of don't, because the content that I'm putting out for John is very much, it can be considered timeless.
Got it.
But when I was shooting for that roofing company, I absolutely followed that. And even back then, it's been 2 years since I've been there. It did seem like every six or 7 months, the social media companies would change their algorithm and focus more on X, Y, and Z. I mean, when I started, reels weren't a thing. Shooting 9x16, shooting this way was not a thing. So a lot of our beginning content was shot this way. Shot, in 16x9. And so, I mean, that was a huge change. And so, you talk about giving out video topics. I would say when you're first starting, you should absolutely only be shooting 9x16, because every social media company is prioritizing 9x16 video over 16x9 video.
So 9x16 and 16x9 for people listening. 9x16 is vertical video. That's what we're seeing on our phone. That's what we're flipping through on TikTok and things like that. 16x9 is holding your phone horizontally. It's what a DSLR camera will shoot in if you don't turn it sideways. So it's horizontal video versus vertical video. And one is 9x16 and 16x9. It's just the way that it's written. And so let's talk about that. Why start with vertical video?
Short form content is doing so much better than long form. And I mean, you can still shoot long form in vertical, but it's people's attention spans are, I think I saw a statistic the other day. It was like, it's now shorter than a goldfish, which, is a little daunting, but what are you going to do? but every social media platform is prioritizing vertical
Yeah.
video. When all of your when you watch somebody's stories, they're in vertical video. When you scroll through reels, when you scroll through shorts, when you scroll through, I mean, even YouTube is it's still considered the largest video platform, and has the largest video library, but TikTok is taking such a large portion of their watch time away, that YouTube, people who have been on YouTube for years, if not over a decade, are now being forced to produce shorts in order to boost their platform. And it's kind of funny because a lot of them are like, we don't want to do it, but it's like, hey, YouTube's like, you want to grow, you gotta record shorts. So everybody is producing. You're going to have more visibility. Let's put it that way, if you shoot vertical video
Yeah.
over horizontal video.
Yeah. I
There is a
think it's,
time and a
I mean,
place for horizontal
there is.
video, but the vast majority of like everyday content that you should be putting out is is going to be consumed most by people who are watching vertical video already.
And the reason they're going to be watching it in vertical is because it's on their phone, right?
Yep.
We consume so much content on our phone. So it's understanding that the content is being consumed on the phone. So shoot it in the format that works best on the phone, right? That's
100%.
so very simply, that's that's the way to go. You can get buried in the metrics. And I think that it's always well, how do I know if it's working? And how do I know if I'm actually making progress? And these are some of the questions that I feel like the inhibiting questions that people put in their mind. Like, well, but I don't know if I'm going to get something from it. And I don't know if, and then even if I do start doing this, well, how do I measure what I'm doing? So when you were looking at the data on a regular basis, what were you looking for?
I was looking at watch time. I was looking at um, the amount of plays. I was looking at if somebody watched it at 25% or somebody watched it at 75%, and why was there such a drop off from 95% to 100%? And for us, I always had a title card at the end, and so when that title card came up, people stopped watching because they knew it was the end of the video. And so I tracked a lot of that, and it actually helped John and I create a style and figure out what was working. And so in the beginning, we were always starting off with like an introduction, like, hi, I'm John with XYZ company, we're out here today doing XYZ, and that turned people off. And so instead of us, so we kind of switched from doing that to starting off with a statement or a hook,
Yep.
and then going into the introduction, or some of the videos we just stopped doing introductions, and I would just have his name pop up on screen, because it was like, well, if you're seeing us everywhere, you already know who this person is. So it kind of became not relevant to do that all the time. So those were kind of some of the things that I looked at when I was producing that.
Hooks are important. It's that you can do a hook, potentially introduce yourself after that, potentially just introduce the problem and then talk about the problem, and then you can even talk about yourself at the end of
Yep.
who you are. If you think about how we're watching content, a lot of times I don't care who's talking. It's if it's relevant information to me. And so it's more we got to tell people who we are. We have to take some time out of, and it's wasting valuable space, because that first 3 seconds, that first 5 seconds, that's when, people decide if they want to watch more or not. Do you have any thoughts on it? Have you put any thoughts? I mean, what do you guys have a framework now? John hit him with an intro, then hit him this, then talk about this, then talk about that. Is there, I always look at like hook, intro, problem, call to action, kind of, you know what I mean? Or problem, solution, call to action is kind of a simple framework that I follow a lot of times. I don't know if there's really much more to that, but I know Adam Benjamin's another one that, like, if you watch Adam, it's a great framework. He has a framework, you know what I mean? And it's, I think that in learning how to shoot video and getting good on camera and things like that, I refer to it in a way of freestyling within a framework, right? So you can, like, that you got to do a hook, then that you have to, kind of introduce either yourself or the problem that you're going to talk about. Then you're talking about the problem and the solution, and then you're hitting your call to action. Like, just so you know that what's coming next for you is the way I think about it. How have you kind of coach that to John, maybe, or how do you coach that to roofing contractors?
I try to follow the keep it simple, stupid formula, because when you start overcomplicating it, because you have to remember that you're a roofer, you do this every single day. The person watching your content is not a roofer. They're not going to, once you start getting technical, they kind of tune out. Another roofer might geek out with you, but it was more of the hook, problem, message, call to action. And the call to action, we got away from saying free. Every roofing company gives free inspections. Every roofing company does, free was kind of we found that free was kind of a turnoff to our audience. But we started saying complimentary. So we would always end with, if you're experiencing this problem, or you haven't had your roof inspected this summer or this spring or before storm season or this winter, or, a storm just happened, give us a call for a complimentary roof inspection. And we would say call or text, because we had call and texting set up, or visit our website to schedule. We were always trying to, when I first started there, you could only book an appointment with calling, so it was like when we finished, it was calling, text, email, on screen chatting on your website. So we would always try to make sure that everybody knew the easy ways to get in touch with us in that call to action. But switching the vernacular from free to complimentary really made a difference in our call to action, at least.
Nice. And that's the thing that, like, there's so I just filmed a series of videos and for Facebook ads, and I shot 5 hooks for each video. And so from a paid perspective, when you're going after these things from a paid perspective, now we have we have the ability to split test, right? So we have the ability to say, to quickly say, man, here's the 5 videos. Which one did people like more, essentially, right? Which one caught their attention more? When you're doing that in organic, because you're, what kind of going back to what we talked about when we're shooting that same problem over and over again and phrasing it just a slightly different way, that's kind of your testing ground from an organic perspective, right? But you're just kind of getting a feel for it, what people are engaging in. And over time, you'll probably start to have it more naturally. Like you said, you realize that complimentary worked better than free. So now we just say that, right? And then, so you can play with your language and see how people react to it. And then, it's what we do in the sales process of, right? Like, we're always like, oh, how'd the, we say something and we see how the homeowner reacts. And then we adjust, well, maybe if I said it this way instead of that way, adjusting our sales pitch, over time. Same stuff, man. Keeping it simple in that regard is just, we're doing this every day.
Well, and you want to keep it short.
Short. Okay. Keeping it. Yep.
I was going to say, I mean, the whole reason you don't want to overcomplicate it is, again, going back to people's attention spans, and really you have every platform with the exception of TikTok. Well, TikTok, I think it's 9 minutes depending on your account size, but I think they just went to unlimited, but don't quote me on that, but the majority of social media is 60 seconds or a minute and a half. And so really trying to jam in
Yeah.
your hook, problem, message, and call to action in a minute and a half, you have to keep it simple.
Yeah.
You know, the the more complicated you make it, the more people will tune out, and you'll fail to keep it under a minute and a half. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Um,
I always think I get asked this question a lot, and I like the keeping it short, especially for the platforms, right?
yeah,
Like when I started this podcast in 2019, I would take an episode and I would find how many 59-second clips I could pull from it, right? Like that was it was what sounded good in 59 seconds, like, and I would just pull those out, and that was my limit, because it was 60 seconds. Like that was so under 60 seconds was the limit. I think it depends on what you're doing. Like when you're doing that day-to-day social media, definitely keeping it short is the way to go.
100%.
I think maybe though, I've also like told people like that, well, how long should videos be? And I say, well, sometimes it's as long as it needs to be.
Yeah.
But what are you being intentional about what you're using it for? Right. If this is a social media quick hitter, like you're staying within this lane, you got these bumpers up. But if this is a video that you're putting on your website or sending to, customers that just sign a contract with you, and now you're explaining what happens from here. Hey, we're gonna get your materials ordered, and we're gonna get you on the schedule. And we're like, those type of videos to me can be the time that it needs to be.
Oh, I
right.
agree.
Like, but when you're just trying to catch people's attention, get them to notice you, get them to think you're smart, right? Like those are definitely those quick hitters for sure. What about like consistency and brand is so impactful, and being consistent is what creates brand, right? To me, right? Like the reason that Nike and Coca-Cola and Apple, and it's consistency. It's nonstop. It's just nonstop over and over again. We're constantly seeing them everywhere. And so what do you think? What are your thoughts on that? Like, what's the importance of brand consistency, and then and I guess that being consistent in your efforts, which kind of are two different things, I guess. But what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if I'm able to say it because I don't know if he's got it like trademarked or anything. But I'm going to dance around it. But there is a person in our space, in the roofing space, who talks about being famous in a certain perimeter of your town, and
we like Joseph Hughes. We'll call it 5 Mile Famous.
I do like Joseph Hughes. All right. So yeah, so he's got a whole thing about being 5 Mile Famous, and it's creating that sense of like omnipresence, like you're everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
And so that consistency is critical. The owner that I worked for, he used to say all the time, he's like, "What if we just stop today?" I was like, it would take about 2 to 4 weeks before you just disappear. You would get pushed down, and people would have to intentionally search for you to find you. So I always would harp, you want to produce content so you stay top of mind. People aren't getting on Facebook, and for us, Facebook was our biggest driver. Now there's so many other platforms, but Facebook or just the Meta platform was our biggest driver. People aren't getting on Facebook to buy a roof. They're just not. They're not. They're getting on Facebook to relax, to catch up with friends, to like follow some group that they're in. They're not getting on Facebook to buy a roof. And so one objective that we try to do is to just have that omnipresence, where when they got on, they were always seeing us. They were always seeing one of our videos. They were always seeing, John talk about a certain message or a problem, or seeing a new roof that we put on. But it wasn't just me going around shooting video. It was me going around and creating a cinematic style video, something that would get somebody to stop scrolling. And that's something I wanted to say earlier, was like, whenever I was shooting content, I always tried to shoot it in a way that, because you got to think of your own scrolling habits. You're just mindlessly scrolling, but like you stop at something that like is interesting to you. And so taking what I do, I tried producing stuff that was like, what would get me to stop scrolling? What would get John to stop scrolling? What would get, Mrs. Johnson to stop scrolling? And so we would produce content with that mindset. And once we kind of honed in on what worked, we really stuck to that formula, because it's like, why kind of deviate from what's working? But yeah, creating that omnipresence is really key. And so, again, it's going back to the repeated content. It's okay to repeat content. It's okay to put out, there were lulls in my recording schedule. And so it's like, if I needed a post for that day, and I haven't posted in a while, I would post the same video, but different copy. I would post the same copy, different picture. Or I would mix up some of the copy that may have worked on a different post, and kind of made a hybrid post. So it's the consistency is the biggest thing for me. Was just, find a schedule that works for you. For me, I was doing it full time, so I was posting 3 to 5 times a day. Gary Vee has a thing where he talks about, posting 64 pieces of content a day. And, for most people, that's unrealistic. He says it is realistic, but for most people, it is unrealistic. And for somebody who was in the thick of a storm last year selling, that would be very unrealistic for me to be posting 64 times a day, because I felt like, 90% of my job was driving around my different jobs. But, the just creating that omnipresence where when somebody gets online, they're seeing you. That's, to me, that was important for us to kind of hone in on.
Yeah, that's the goal. Like, I think that's the big goal, like, is the omnipresence, right? The omnipresence, 5 Mile Famous, like, best known roofer book here, like, that's what we talk about is omnipresence. And it really is like, just, it's so impactful. Now let's go to the kind of the other part of that question, which is the brand consistency. How do you get people to know that it's you, right? Like, we know that it's Coca-Cola every time. We know that it's Apple, right? What are you doing from that aspect to get people to recognize that this is the brand?
So for us, we were always using the same graphics in our we were using the same graphics in our videos. We always had branding, so we never really shot without some sort of branding on our shirt or on the, like, behind us. So there was some form of branding always in our video.
So product placement, right? Like, you're making sure that the logo, and to simplify it, right, the logo is in the video.
Yeah. And it wasn't. I see what you're asking about. When somebody sees a red can, it's usually Coca-Cola, or they see. I'm trying to think of another thing when they.
And we're not going to get there from a roofing business, right? Like,
correct.
But colors matter a lot, right? I spoke. I've spoken to many contractors around the country that went bright with their colors and went outside of what the kind of the colors are in their area. Maybe, certain areas have, the colleges or the sports teams and things like that. And you could either go with that, or you could go flip it and go against it. But, like, people being recognizable, having that recognizable color, the color scheme, logos, things like that they're seeing over and over again, those brand impressions add up, and then they start to put the connection together. It takes a lot of connections these days.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought it, because I wasn't thinking that simple. And that's the color. My coloring was consistent. Even if you watch John's stuff, his logo is, he loves LSU. So obviously he incorporated purple into his logo. And so anytime you see captions, I play around with the different captions, but typically the coloring is that it has some form of purple in it all the
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
So for that company, we went from a like green to blue. And so if you go through and look at our video library, you will see that once we change that logo and color,
Yep.
the entire color scheme of anything I put in the videos changed from that green to blue. But
Yep.
yes, you're right. That was something that you can consistently do is when
Yeah.
have that color. It's subtle, but it works.
Yeah. And it goes along, now your truck wraps and your yard signs and
Yep.
your, everything, the colors on your website and the colors in your, everything just kind of flows together and makes those connections for us. What kind of, like, are you using is there any new cool tools that you're using, things like that are helping you to edit, to get, to get content down? Are you using AI in any ways in your process now to write descriptions or doing any of that fun stuff? What do you got from that aspect?
I was hoping you're going to bring up AI because I'm probably going to get flack for this, but AI to me is still such a novelty. Like it's
Yeah.
not anything that I use like seriously. And again, I'm not dogging on people who do use it seriously because there are a lot of people who are using it, but I still believe in that human element. For anything we do, AI makes things easier because it can
Yeah.
make your process quicker. But for me, I just don't have time to explore it to a level that I want to, unfortunately. Um, um, I'm sorry, I
Cool
forgot where I was going
tools.
with
Like
that.
what
Tools,
tools are you
yes.
using for
Excuse me.
editing? Are
Sorry.
you using CapCut? Are you using, like, what are some of the things that you're using to help to produce the end result?
So I use Premiere Pro, which is Adobe Premiere Pro, but that's kind of advanced for
Yep.
most people. Every social media platform has their own built-in video editor, which if you're just getting started out, you can absolutely use that. I have a little experience with CapCut, but CapCut is a good platform to use if you just want to record something on your phone and then cut it on your phone. You can add graphics, you can add effects, you can add various different components to your video. The biggest thing for me is every social media company is prioritizing videos with closed captioning. And so I use an app called Captions, and I pay, it's like $8 a month, and I get access to their entire library. And it's funny because they just actually introduced you can make AI videos, which I haven't explored on that yet, but I'm probably going to very soon. But
Yeah.
yeah, Captions is great because you can even, you're talking about branding. We've kind of established a certain caption that we use for John's videos, and I've deviate from it a little bit, but for the most part, whenever you watch his videos, it's the same caption style. So it becomes, people are familiar with that. People are used to seeing it that way. So something as subtle as keeping your captions the same, keeping the way that you have them displayed the same, it goes a long way. But yeah,
It does.
those are some tools that I'm using. The biggest thing that I harp on is incorporating semi-pro gear into your video aspects. So like if you're on a roof, it's obviously going to be windy, and as good as if you have an iPhone, as good as the microphones are on them, they don't fare well in windy conditions. And so I'm wearing this at the moment. But this is a great add-on. If you were to get any piece of gear today to start recording more content on a roof, a good mic set is critical. Because
What?
people will watch a crappy video with good audio. They won't watch a great video with crappy audio. Some people may argue with me on that, but I really feel like it's if you're trying to deliver a message and they can't hear you. I mean, I see there's roofing companies in my area who are holding the phone, saying things, and it gets windy and you can't hear them for like
Can't
20
hear.
seconds. And you're like,
Yeah.
how did they even approve this
People are
to get
gone.
put up here?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Um,
people are gone. Like if you start to that interruption in it, that like you're not going to get the engagement. I'm with you, man. Like, and it's a simple thing. You know what, $100, $200? What price range are you in on like a nice wireless lapel mic? What did you call it? What?
so this is the DJI mic set.
Okay,
This is the newest generation. These are 349, and I hope I'm not every time I hit it, it's not like popping it. But the reason I like DJI is they're reliable. I can't unplug the receiver from my computer because we'll lose audio. But
yeah,
essentially, you have a little receiver that you can plug into your phone, and when you plug that in, everything that you record, the audio gets recorded in with that video. So you're not having to then go do post processing and sync the audio with your camera audio. But the reason I like these packs are they come with an additional mic, and that
mm,
additional mic is great. We talked about customer testimonials earlier. This is such an easy setup that you can basically plug and go. And so you're at a job, the homeowner's super happy. You're like, oh hey, like, would you mind doing a quick testimonial for me? You pop on a mic for them, you ask them a couple questions, and you have a customer testimonial. So these are great on the go. This is a great on the go accessory.
nice. Yeah, that's a big one, man. The mic is the biggest one. Our phone cameras are so powerful. You don't need a lot of camera. What other things do you use? I think I always see you with the gimbal.
Yep.
People don't explain what a gimbal is, maybe, and what some like how that helps with some of the content.
So the gimbal is great. I'm actually going to hop off camera really quick and grab it, just because it's right behind me. The
Cool.
the gimbal is a great accessory because we all like to think we have a steady hand, but we don't. And this really helps you get. Sorry, I'm trying to unscrew it from my. There we go. This is a gimbal. This thing is fantastic. So it connects to your phone, and it's basically a stabilizer. So, it's basically a stabilizer. So when you're on the roof,
Yep.
And you're moving around, you're hopping around, you're moving, it's going to keep your phone steady. And this is something that you could use as you start producing content, as if you're walking on a roof, if you want to, highlight something where, you want to have some movement in your shots, like this thing is great. This is $160, I believe. The other cool thing that this does is it extends. And so
Mm.
I have it turned off right now, but if you can have it further away from you to give the effect that somebody's filming you.
Oh,
If you don't have
it's a
somebody,
really fancy selfie stick, right? Like
yes,
it's a
yes,
in a way, like, but that's the two things. So if you had to get, like, we're talking 80% of the way there, right? Like the 80-20 rule, 80% of the way there, a good mic and a gimbal. Like
good, good mic and a
you
gimbal.
might be 95% of the way there with a good mic and a gimbal. That's pretty much all you need to really shoot some really quality stuff.
And it's funny because it's people are shocked when I tell them, but I primarily only shot with my phone. All of those years, I only shot on my phone because, again, one, it's roofing, and two, it's people are so used to seeing video shot from your phone. Now, I'm not saying they have to be bad. I'm not asking you to shoot bad video, but I'm just saying, like, you don't have to take an entire camera rig up
Yeah.
on the roof to get quality content.
Yeah.
There is a time and a place for somebody with a nice camera rig, a DSLR type. When we were shooting full roof installs, I have a drone out. I have my DSLRs out. I have GoPros doing time lapses. But like your everyday content can be shot from this 4K camera in your pocket.
Yeah, for sure. What other thoughts? Like what's upcoming? What would be the greatest piece of advice that you could give people? What are some like kind of to tie it all together here?
Tying it all together, I would just say again, don't compare your day one to somebody's day 1,000. Everybody starts somewhere. The more that you're on camera, the more that you're making videos, the more you're going to kind of find your style and hone in on the way you talk, on the way that you move your hands. There was an exercise that I used to tell people, or when you're first starting out, I encourage you, obviously you want to record something that you're competent at, that you know. And so, record yourself for a minute, look at the camera, record yourself for a minute. When you're done, hit play, put the camera down or put your phone down and just listen to the way that you're talking. Listen to those ums, listen to the pauses, just listen. Then pick up the phone, turn down the volume, and just watch yourself. Look at how you're talking. Look at if you're looking away. Look, it's the more it's like exercising or riding a bike. You're not going to notice results immediately, but the more you do it, the more it's going to become second nature. And the more that you're going to be able to pick up your phone and immediately just, I want to get on this roof today and I want to talk about this topic and this topic. You get on the roof, you talk about that topic, and you're done. You want to get to that point, but you're not going to get to that point if you don't at least start.
Yeah, man, you got to get started. How can people get a hold of you?
They can call me. They can text me. I don't know if you want to put my number in the thing, or they can.
We'll put some info in the description. So check the description for Paul's info.
Yep. Or they can go to skyhighcinema.me.
All right. Awesome, man. Appreciate your time today. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.